we're not going to let China win the race.
Every share you own, you will own more and more underlying Bitcoin that backs that share.
And that's what you find in Bitcoin. That's why it is truly digital gold.
This episode of the Bitcoin Economy is brought to you in part by Ledn.
Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over 9 billion loans since 2018. And they were the first to offer proof of reserves.
With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit ledn.io for more information. Empires are built on energy. The coal built the industrial age, oil built the last American century. Today, compute is the energy story that decides the next generation. Two men are betting their family names on this premise. So we got Eric Trump and Asher Genoot. And if we get this right, America owns the power stack for the next generation. China's not going to wait, and they're building grids, fabs, data centers on a national scale. Eric, take us through that origin story. What problem did American Bitcoin exist to ultimately solve for this problem? And not only from a company perspective, but like for America itself.
Well, in my life, it started to solve the debanking problem. I fell into the crypto industry because we were debanked. I fell in love with the people in the industry, and I realized the crypto industry solves all the problem that modern day finance cannot, right? It solves it better, faster, cheaper, more efficiently. Then I came to love Bitcoin, and I truly think Bitcoin is the greatest hedge toward hard assets, right? We're in the hard asset world. We've got some of the best hotels and residential buildings, commercial buildings, anywhere in the world. It's what I do every day. You know, those buildings aren't mobile. They're not liquid, right? You can't bring them anywhere in the world. They're not, worldwide assets, right? They're very local. They're very permanent, right? So every feature of real estate, of hard assets that's valuable, there's a counter to that, and that's what you find in Bitcoin. That's why it is truly digital gold, and I believe with it with every ounce of my heart and soul. Then you take the overlying premise of who we are as America. We've got the greatest energy reserves anywhere in the world. We can do energy better than anyone in the world if we actually care to, right? I mean, if you have the right type of administration that has the right pro-energy policies, and America is doing that. And so all of a sudden you take kind of this unbelievable asset, which is something I believe in, right? I believe in assets. I believe in investing in assets, and I believe in Bitcoin as much as I believe in anything in my life. You take the greatest energy anywhere in the world, which is the energy that you have in the United States of America. You're able to mine that asset for roughly 50 cents, on average, roughly 50 cents on the dollar to the spot price of Bitcoin every single day, which is what we're doing at American Bitcoin. And I think we're creating one of the truly great crypto companies, truly great Bitcoin companies anywhere on earth. And we're doing it right here in the United States of America.
So Asher, we're excited to sit down with you again. Thank you for making this happen. We talked in Hong Kong. A great thing I think you did was to break down to our listeners, to the audience, to the native Bitcoiners, but also the people that are very just like getting into the space on treasury companies. And you said, look, HUD 8 is long, energy, all of the compute, the new energy sources coming online. American Bitcoin is long Bitcoin. So if you're looking at these two companies, that's how we have them structured. Tell us a little bit more about that messaging. Like, we have a lot of confusion in the treasury space, all these new metrics. Like, what are you messaging now? Like, what is your focus on making the average investor understand the big ideas you have?
So for American Bitcoin, we talked about this a little bit earlier on our panel. The way to think about American Bitcoin is this. When we started it, the question was, does the world need another Bitcoin mining company? Does the world need another treasury company? And the answer is probably no, because there's a ton of them out there. And so we basically went down to the root of what do investors want? They invested in these companies, whether it be Bitcoin mining or treasury, because they wanted a levered return on Bitcoin, right? If you own Bitcoin, you own the appreciation and the depreciation of Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes from 100 to 200K, you double your money. Goes from 100 to 50K, you lose half your money. You can't get a yield on Bitcoin itself. You just get the appreciation and depreciation of it. And so the idea is if we create a business that's focused on Bitcoin per share, and we can increase the Bitcoin per share, that means every share you own, you will own more and more underlying Bitcoin that backs that share. And so you're getting this natural dividend and this yield, and you can do that through a variety of mechanisms. So we'll start with mining. Mining companies didn't work because people focus on how do I become the largest miner with the most amount of compute? And they started forgetting about fundamental economics. Like you buy a machine and you would ideally like to mine more Bitcoin than that machine cost. But people started to forget about that and said, well, our stock goes up every time we buy a machine, let's just buy more and more machines, even if we're losing money. And so that trust went away and people started spending a ton of money on SG&A and all these things. And for example, a lot of people have massive security teams and all this. And people ask, how come you don't have one? I was like, I have enough when I go with Eric. I don't need it on my own. We're good. And so like keeping SG&A light, but also focusing on when you invest in Bitcoin mining to get the best return. We're at sites with some of the cheapest power out there in the world. We have this relationship with Hut 8, where Hut 8 invests in all the infrastructure. So we're able to, at American Bitcoin, just invest into the machines that produce the Bitcoin. And so you get a much better yield in return because it's a higher return. You're trying to pay back in 2 years. Infrastructure is a much longer payback than 2 years. And then on the treasury side, if you have cheap access to capital, then you raise and you buy more Bitcoin. If you don't, then you don't. The problem is if you're just a treasury and you don't have cheap access to capital, then you just sit on your hands and you can't do anything. We're mining Bitcoin every single day, no matter what, right? Assuming energy prices continue to be cheap, right? We don't mine at a loss either. And so I think by saying, hey, American Bitcoin has two things. From a like economic perspective, we are driving yield and Bitcoin yield for every shareholder. And as long as you buy at a price at a multiple to Bitcoin that you're comfortable with, you just hold that, and our job is continue to increase your Bitcoin that backs every single share you own. On the other side, like there's more and more adoption in Bitcoin, both across the world and especially in America. And with a bunch of folks switching over to AI and moving their data centers to AI, we don't want all of this compute that securitizes the Bitcoin network that everyone's believing in to go to China, to go to Russia, to go to Iran. We need compute in the US as well. And so there's an economic driver here, and there's also a philosophical driver of if we believe in Bitcoin, the US has to lead in having a large share of that network, securitizing that Bitcoin in the US as well. And so that's why we formed the company, and that's why it's called American Bitcoin as well, because of the focus on America.
And Jensen over at NVIDIA, he just mentioned, kind of slipped up and mentioned that he thinks China potentially could win the AI race, right? How do we make sure that doesn't happen? How do we implement beyond just for shareholders? Like, what does this actually mean for the average American and the towns that you guys are going into? How does that bring jobs? And maybe more so for Eric, how do you kind of balance the company, thinking about the shareholders, and then ultimately from your family, like how do you guys ensure that Americans prosper from this?
This episode of Bitcoin Economy is brought to you by Crypto.com.
Crypto.com has millions of users, has been around since 2016, and they just released proof of reserves on their verification page, driving the industry standard for transparency within centralized exchanges.
Link in the show notes below. Download the Crypto.com app and get started today.
We're not going to let China win the race. We're just not. America's not ready for that to happen, and we won't let that happen. And I think you have a government in there right now that is, and I'm obviously conflicted in saying this because, but they're hell-bent on making sure that doesn't happen. Hence the reason, they've had so much focus on energy. We had a 4-year period of time where the administration wasn't focused on energy. I mean, look at gas prices, look at diesel prices, look at oil prices, look at heating oil prices, look at everything across the board. I mean, every day they were shutting down another nuclear reactor in this country. One a couple miles away from, my house in New York, literally shut down the reactor, and everybody's energy prices went up by 3x. We can't allow that to happen in the U.S. We have to have the best, oil and gas in the world. We have oil and gas reserves in this country. They're the best anywhere, right? And then aside from oil and gas, obviously in terms of nuclear, because that's the future of all of this, we better allow that to happen in this country. And we had periods of time where it might take somebody 15 years to get a permit to build another nuclear reactor. And now my father's putting them through in a week and in 2-week periods of time. And so that's going to allow an AI boom in this country, the likes of which we've never seen. Second of all, we've got the best entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. So we are going to win that race. We better win that race. I think our national security is dependent on it. I think our economy is dependent on it. I think our standing in the world is dependent on it. I think our currency is dependent on it. And you've got the smartest people in the world that are sprinting every single day to win that race. And by the way, there's probably no better person than the infrastructure that they're putting in place in terms of the power grids to win that race than what Asher's doing on the Hut 8 side, our sister company.
In an environment, I mean, China's been around much longer than the U.S. has been. The U.S. is the leader in the world. And that's because of the people and the entrepreneurs that have built this country and in the world. And building in the U.S. before this administration, honestly, was really, really tough. At every corner, you had resistance, you had pushback. When we used to build sites, we would literally try to stay as under the radar so no one even knew we existed. Today, we're meeting with local communities, we're meeting with stakeholders, and people are proud to be building again. And I think there's something like what Eric and his family, when pre-administration, and now the administration, is just empower Americans to be Americans and let them build. And I think that is like something that is so underappreciated. When we go into places, we have a massive site in Louisiana, like the amount that people are fired up again, and they're like, America is back, we're building, we're ready to go. The contractors on site are like, let's go build this quickly so we can win this race. Like, that is what I think has been re-energized in this country. And I see it both in places like New York and Miami, but also in places where you're in West Texas, in kind of the middle of nowhere. You're in Louisiana, where they haven't had a ton of these types of infrastructure projects come in outside of oil and gas and things of that nature. And so, I mean, China's been around for longer. The U.S. has won because of the people. And now we've just unlocked the people to go build again, and I think we'll continue to win.
Well said. So as we wrap this up, Eric, we talked about the podcast you had last week with Full Send. Your level of conviction is good to hear. You talked about Michael Saylor and what he's done for the industry, being out there teaching, educating, getting other companies to buy Bitcoin. And people love price predictions. So our audience, you said $1 million. You did say several years. The takeaway I heard that was a little bit spicy is go into Mars. Does from what you said, it's like, hey, we want to win AI, we want to win Bitcoin mining and win the future of finance, and then hey, we want to secure energy to be able to do really, really big things, which is exciting, to inspire the next generation. Tell us a little bit about that as we wrap up.
Oh, well, we're going to get back to the moon. There's no question we're going to get to Mars, and America is going to be the country that doesn't. Make no mistake about it, and we're also hell-bent on doing that. But listen, guys, in terms of American Bitcoin, I mean, American Bitcoin, I truly believe, is going to be the greatest Bitcoin company anywhere on Earth. To be able to mine Bitcoin, as we're sitting here, as we're having this conversation, we're actively mining Bitcoin. We're mining it, again, at roughly 50 cents on the dollar to the spot price of Bitcoin, and we're doing so each and every day. It's an asset that everybody wants. It's an asset that's accessible to people. You can buy Bitcoin now by buying a BTC on the NASDAQ. You can go buy ETFs. You can go buy Bitcoin in ways that you couldn't have 5 years ago. 5 years ago, people were trying to buy in the ledgers, and they were forgetting their seed phrases, and you had to be a computer scientist to do it, and you were doing it on largely DeFi. Now guess what? Fidelity's offering Bitcoin. Schwab just announced first quarter of next year that they're going to be offering BTC. You see what BlackRock is doing in that world. You see what Coinbase is doing in that world. You see what Robinhood is doing in that world. I mean, you see what JP Morgan, the announcements from Jamie Dimon. All the fissures are now opening up on Bitcoin. Now every day you go on, buy something on another e-com platform, and all of a sudden they're accepting Bitcoin as payment. I'm selling units, or we will soon be selling units in Bitcoin in a big tower, Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, meaning allowing the payment of those residential and hotel condo units in BTC. That's never happened before. And you're seeing that happen every day. You've got great developers, Grant Cardone, who's all of a sudden pairing BTC to bring down your effective yield on real estate projects. And you're not just seeing it from Grant Cardone, you're seeing it from a ton of other people in the industry. Then you're seeing every Fortune 500 that's buying BTC to put on their balance sheet. You're seeing every country, you're seeing every sovereign wealth fund, you're seeing every large family, and you're seeing countries, nation states buying BTC. BTC isn't going away. Bitcoin has been the greatest asset of the last decade. Bitcoin is more accessible, more available to people now than ever before. We're roughly at where the internet was in 1999, in terms of growth rate. We are on the 1 yard line, and we've got 99 yards to go. And I think what we're building, you have two races that are happening. And I always use this analogy. You have the race who can accumulate the most and who can accumulate the cheapest. And we want to win the who can accumulate the most cheapest. I think that's a race that we're going to win. That's a race that I'm focused on every day, that Asher's focused on every day. And I truly think American Bitcoin is going to be one of the great companies in the country, certainly one of the great companies on the NASDAQ. We are working our asses off, and we are having the greatest time doing it. And listen, we're 5 months and 3 days between the time we founded the company and it was listed on the NASDAQ. We're just shy of being on the NASDAQ for 3 months right now. And it feels like every single day we're passing another company on the list of treasuries as we climb up our ladder and this ladder. And we're hell-bent on being at the very top. And so I think you're going to see great things from us and the company, ABTC, Asher. We're having a lot of fun doing it, guys.
Just one last thing here, because and this is not an ad for your book, but everyone should go out and buy Underseas. I just read it right before here. You said something in the beginning of the book, and it's dedicated to the kids. We're both new dads. I got a 2-year-old. He's got an almost 3-year-old as well. And this quote just stood out to me. In life, hold fast your integrity. Stay resilient. Always have the courage to stand for what is right. Never stop dreaming. Never stop fighting for what matters and how deeply you are loved. How does this relate now to Americans? Like, it almost felt like you were speaking to the heart of Americans, right? How does this like background from your family translate now into the company and what Americans can kind of view moving forward?
Well, by reading that quote, you're gonna make me sound like a nice, soft human being, right?
So, when I was reading it, so.
Yeah, and that was certainly written to my kids. But that's right. Listen, I think you have to have conviction. In the political race, we had a lot of conviction. That's the only thing that got us through. You had people who were trying to take our heads off each and every day. They tried to bankrupt us. They tried to deplatform us. They debanked us. They impeached him multiple times. I became the most painted person in American history for doing absolutely nothing wrong. And yet you continue to sprint toward that goal. I think we're going to see that in the crypto space. Over the years, there have been a lot of deniers. There have been a lot of forces against. There have been some ups and downs. And I think the community has always persevered, and they've always won, right? Don't bet against the crypto community because you're going to lose. And historically, you're going to lose badly, badly. And I think we're in the infancy where, so I do think you have to hold to your convictions. And I am 100%. I have 100% conviction in Bitcoin. I have 100% conviction in digital assets. And again, when you fast forward a decade and you look back, I believe with every ounce of my heart and soul that we're going to be proven right.
Asher, Eric, we'll really appreciate this conversation. American Bitcoin, you guys announced Friday earnings.
That's right.
And so we'll be looking out for that. Probably get this episode out by then, and we'll have to do this again in another quarter.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.